systems, like all the interaction
Hello.
aspects. Puzzle
Late as always, but you know, you won't want it any other way, right?
doing it, we're building it, but also implementing the different.
So, CitizenCon is here. I've missed half of it already because of in real life stuff. But here we go. Just done one about bunkers. Phoenix, how you doing, mate?
Are going on, 3 levels underneath the surface of Gila versus 4 levels underneath the surface of Pyro 2. And these are coming to both the Stanton system and the Pyro system and wherever else afterwards. I'm not saying it because I like my all right, so in addition to that, this
Not
one,
loud
this,
enough.
Nope, on this one. This one. Hi, everybody. We've got a number of promotions going on today. Everybody that's a member of the Star Citizen community, you've got a registered account on the website, is getting a free digital goodies pack. It's available for all backers. It's got Francis, the party animal plushie, which I believe is a Finley with a fun hat, isn't it?
Oh, nice. You're not getting drunk again here.
A Falston jumpsuit, the Shubin edition.
You can't fire me,
cool.
Phoenix, because I quit. All right.
In the clothing-wise for the Precision Universe. And a grenade launcher, because giving everybody in the universe a grenade launcher, that's going to be fun. We've also got a Toby Eye
But people kicked off about that, didn't they?
JRDF are
Kicking off about a grenade launcher.
JRDF are giving away Carrick, Freelancer, and Cyclone models.
Sorry, Devin. Yeah, I am
Halloween
hugely late.
already live, and there's another Halloween contest where they're giving out some Caterpillars and Buccaneers. You can find out everything you need.
I will no doubt do a video on this stuff though.
Website.
So I'll be able to go back and watch
I
it.
saw the chat going. I did comb my hair.
See what I find
Because,
interesting.
While Brian was being messaged about one thing, I got messaged by my mom, who didn't like that I hadn't combed my hair.
Nice, nice. What's the name of the IPA? Is it something ridiculous?
All right, what's next, everybody? Up next is, well, it's one of the segments that I'm looking forward to most. It's our sleeper segment of the day, as far as I'm concerned. The need for multiple speeds with Rich Towler and Yogi and Jed and Johnny and Dave from the Flight Experience, Flight Comp feature team. They keep changing their names as much as I do. They're going to talk about one of Star Citizen's oldest and most complex problems and the exciting news.
The rocket not being
So check that out.
right on his pocket is annoying me. I don't know why. Journey to 4.0.
Hi, my name is Yogi Klatt. I'm a gameplay programmer in the vehicle feature team.
I'll
I'm
have a
here
look.
with Rich Towler, David Colson, Jed Talbot, and Johnny Young. And today we're gonna talk to you about the upcoming changes to the flight systems and the combat systems, which are done specifically for Squadron 42, but which will
90s
eventually
kid.
find the way to the persistent universe.
That is ace.
We want to define ship roles for the game because every role in itself and every ship can offer unique gameplay opportunities for individual players.
To seeing it, Phoenix, 90s kid.
The gameplay in Star Citizen, a lot more opportunity for different
Looks quite naughty.
careers, different responsibilities,
Cowabunga dude.
different sort of perspectives and views on gameplay. where
Apricot,
people
stone fruit, and
different
citrus,
work and different
with a
types of
pillowy,
jobs.
pillowy body for a haze lover's dream. 6.5%. Sounds right, actually.
It's not just about combat. It's not just about an economy.
I've had worse
it's not
drinks,
just about piracy. It's about all of those things happening at the same time. So we need ships that can act and function in different ways to support all of those different goals.
In trying to figure out these
Scouser.
roles and define what they are and make the gameplay for them, we started very heavily leaning toward combat, mostly because combat is a mechanic that is very widely applicable throughout the game, and the principles behind it
It
apply
is,
to
and I'm useless
various
at it.
other roles in the game.
We've been working away in the S42 branch, and this has really allowed us to isolate these ships. So we've kind of broken it down into archetypes, and it's really allowed us to kind of.
He looks
break
like a
down what these
proper
ships do.
hermit, doesn't he?
You know, and also it's to make sure that when we are defining these roles and balancing these roles, that we're putting the ships in the right place, because we don't want the ships to be like, you play this ship, it means you dominate this part of the game. That there's always got to be plus and minuses so the balance is right. So there's still some crossover between the ships. So just picking one type of ship just isn't, isn't just a win.
We have already defined several ship roles.
Buccaneer's meant to be
Usually
good,
known
right?
as light, medium, and heavy fighters. Light fighters for us are fighters which are very dominant in the area of 1 versus 1 PvP combat.
But they come with a downside, because obviously the light, which means the materials chosen on the ship, are probably not the strongest. So it's more about the attack. It's more about trying to outposition and get in there and attack and get out of the situation.
Heavy fighters are kind of the opposite. They're not supposed to be really good at 1v1, but they excel at N versus N engagements, so when we have group battles. Medium fighters for us, internally we call multi-role fighters, because they have a lot of hard points, so they have a lot of loadout flexibility. So a player can tune them to the role whatever they want, but they will never reach the performance of dedicated ships.
A lot of the medium fighters sometimes come with a turret as well, so they've got that additional gameplay of the turret, which is aimed to kind of counter the lack of maneuverability that their ships have.
And then additionally to that, we have racing ships, which are basically just really fast at changing the velocity vectors. And interceptors, which we basically just want to.
It is amazing how many different
forward area, but
ships there are,
the performance envelope of dedicated
and the uses for them.
Interceptors are designed to kind of catch up to ships and disable them. So they come with kind of advanced kind of hardware on these ships.
Bombers, on the other hand, are well,
everyone
they're just
loves that
slotting
shit.
Heavy ordnance at larger targets, so you use them to take out bigger ships. But they're not really good at, well, killing small fighters. And then from smaller ships coming to larger ships like
Dr. Ray, how you doing, mate?
Change the gameplay to be less about positional combat, but more going into the naval style of combat, where it's important to show the correct shield and fire.
How you doing, dude?
Timing your shots over long distances.
So the purpose of ship roles is to really help players understand what ships should be used and when they should be used. And it's really about delivering on those kind of gameplay promises that we've been talking about, over the past, kind of several years.
Hope Star
Every ship
Citizen's
is
still
the
been
same.
still
It's
been
not
working
fun.
for you, Ray.
But if we have dedicated ships with dedicated pros and cons, then we can create very
Glad to hear you're
exciting
good, man.
environments. And the biggest challenge we see in order to get that gameplay we want is the current speed that we have in combat.
I'm all right, mate. Yeah, just been a busy day, so I was late to the party today to see this.
It's a subject we've talked about many, many times in the past. And it's
But I'll
something
do like
we've
an
tried
overview
many
video
things
on it.
with. We've tried limiting things at speed, we've tried adjusting.
Hopefully, as soon as I can, I'll have to try and work on it tomorrow and get it out as soon as I can. A lot of competition into YouTube and all that.
When ships are going fast in combat, they usually just end up very far apart, which is not very interesting, and it just devolves into jousting very quickly, which is also not very interesting.
The second you create a longer distance between you and the target, your angular requirements to maneuver to that target are just extremely small.
Well, it's been working all right.
And this is a very obvious math reason why.
There's a lot of
high-speed
activity trying to get
combat
these
is
Halloween
the
helmets,
opposite
Ray.
of what we want
So
to achieve,
you want to
meaning
check some
meaningful
outposts and stuff,
effective
because
position
there's some
maneuvering.
crazy
We want
helmets
the
you can
combat
get
to be
currently.
closer and to be more turn-oriented, so rotations should matter more than just flat speed.
Having very high speeds that are pretty much the same between all ship classes negates a lot of the opportunity for smaller ships to flex different types of gameplay.
Another big issue with the speeds in combat is it's very hard to keep players engaged in the combat.
Yeah,
because
jousting is
players
annoying.
can move so far so quickly in such a short space of time. It's quite hard to keep a track on your opponent.
So you might think, oh, why don't we just make the ship slower and call it a day? Well, we can't do that.
The main reason we can't just make everything slower is the size of the Star Citizen world. We've got huge planets where we need to go from the planet's surface up into space. We need to
Could have put a clean t-shirt on.
systems.
Or has it been raining or is it just sweating?
essentially
I don't
we
know
can't
anymore.
have just low speeds all the time.
He's
There's a
wet.
massive universe out there to explore, there's planets to explore, and the feelings we want to capture with the speed, we still want an element of danger that you can still go too fast in lots of situations.
We have tried an awful lot over the past few years.
I go too
with
fast in all
what
situations.
we
I feel
call
like that's the
soft
best thing to do.
speed caps, where there is no speed cap on ships.
Because who
but
crashes slowly?
We
You know?
encourage gameplay to occur at a lower speed, but it doesn't really work because the advantages of flying fast.
Thing is, even the
in
AI,
terms of
can't speak.
defense
Even the AI
is
try and
just
ram you.
better.
So
So since the last year, the focus
They
of
just
these
joust
features
their
has
ship into
shifted
your
very
face.
heavily towards Squadron 42 and nailing down the flight and space combat experience for it. And I'm very proud to say that we finally found a really good working solution that we're going to show today.
master modes.
So the main idea is to simply not have.
Nah, don't worry about it,
combat
Ray.
And long range.
It's cool, man. Like I said, I'll try and do a video about overviewing a lot of the cool stuff that's coming. You can give that a watch if you fancy it.
A thing that is globally applied to your
Then you
ship.
haven't really missed anything then.
And
This
we
is
have
just
two
me
of
sat
them.
here watching this,
SCM,
talking to a
which is
few
now
guys.
labeled as standard control mode, and QCM or QM for quantum mode.
The idea is that between these two modes, we can
Seeing what the hell it
constrain the
is.
speeds in combat and also get all of the maneuvering, like high speed maneuvering and traversal mechanics that we had before, but in these distinct modes that are integrated with lore and integrated with the ship functions, such that there's costs and payoffs for being in each of the two modes.
So let's start with standard control mode and what this means. So this is the mode that we intend to be the functional mode of the ship, whether it's combat or mining or any of these kind of core kind of things the ship does. We want the player to do these things in this mode. And what this does is it reduces the speed of the ship, but it also enables the shield to be turned on. And obviously the intent behind this is where you do your combat. It's where the guns are on, the missiles can be armed and fired, and all the kind of operational things the ship does operates within this mode.
The
makes
speeds
sense.
that you can reach in SCM are somewhat limited, somewhere between 200 and 300 meters per second, tuning pending. But this is basically the hard cap, which you cannot not really exceed. You can slightly exceed this by using boost.
A little bit of
but
boost,
you cannot
yeah.
maintain any velocity beyond that SCM limit for a longer period of time.
So we're thinking of this as some kind of energy management system, so you can go a little bit faster with a little bit more accelerations when you need to, but you know that it is a limited resource and you should use it carefully.
Specifically, the boost space is interesting for space combat because that boost space is not spheric as it was before. You can boost the fastest if you're going forward on a straight line, and you have a lot of debuffs when you're trying to boost backwards. That alone gets us a lot of interesting maneuvering space and variation in the day-to-day dogfight maneuvering, so to speak.
Importantly, you don't have your quantum drive available in this mode.
I would love to be good at
The
dogfighting.
idea
I just,
quantum is restrained to the.
I'm just
traversal
not.
mode.
The second mode is quantum control mode, or QCM or QM. What this mode does is it unlocks your maximum velocity that your ship can reach. So when you were limited before to 200 to 300 meters per second, now you can go to 1200, 1400 meters per second, whatever your ship allows you.
During the development of the quantum mode, we realized we needed something that was a little bit more kind of about traveling large distances, but not the distances that you need to, speed up your quantum drive and travel across the universe. So we've created this feature called Quantum Boost, which is available in the quantum mode, and you can access it at any point. So at any point you want to kind of boost towards your location that you're kind of looking at, which is too far away. And this boost is available for a limited amount of time, and it's purely on a straight line.
Just to give you like a ballpark, quantum boost will allow you to go to a target fast if it's within, let's say, 50,000 kilometers, whereas you will use quantum travel to do very long range jumps between planets. So quantum mode allows you to go very, very fast with up to like 1200, 1400 meters per second when you want to zip really fast over a planet. It also allows you to do quantum boost to quickly go between points of interest, which are rather close to you. And it allows you to travel long distances between planets and large scales.
Have they showed off a new map yet? They need a new
Your
map.
capacitor systems are non-functional because they interfere with the quantum bubble that is allowing you to go fast. You won't have shields. Your shields will collapse right away when you swap into quantum mode. Your weapons will stop working because anything that's firing outwards of your ship will disintegrate the quantum bubble. Your countermeasures won't work, and you will also not be able to use thruster boost. So basically all your capacitor and combat-related systems are turned off instantly.
When you switch between modes, there'll be a little period of time where everything has to spool up and change. So you will lose your shields during this, you won't have your weapons during this, but you also won't be going fast. So there's a risk-reward element when you need to switch modes.
So it's going to be a very kind of conscious choice of what mode you should.
What about if you get
at any
interdicted
particular point. So if
and you
feel
get
the
pulled out of
threat
quantum?
of someone that's close by, you're not quite sure what their intention is.
You're going to be pretty
maybe
screwed
switch
pretty
to
quickly,
standard
aren't you?
control and be safe. Or you can switch into quantum mode and escape. And this is going to kind of bring in an element of danger and an element of risk
Because going into the two different modes is like a systemic thing within the ship's items, we actually have the opportunity now to define ship roles that can block people from escaping, either using devices that suppress the quantum bubble or devices that can effectively interfere with your ability to transfer between the modes.
You're going to see me
Ships, like
crash into a lot of planets with a quantum boost, I think.
Have a higher standard
What
control
do you...
speed, so they're
Phoenix,
able to catch
the
up with people.
interdiction thing I just
For
said,
example,
when you get pulled
make
out of
the swap
quantum by
between
someone,
modes
it's
faster
sort of
and more
interdicted you.
efficient, so that they could catch up with you, go into
You're going to drop
standard
out of
control mode,
quantum
attack you
without any
more
shields,
effectively
any weapons, until
as
things start
per
spooling up.
operating
That's
your
going to
ship,
leave you rather
might not be as good at doing something like that.
rather
It's something
fucked,
that's
innit?
fundamentally
If that's how it
changed
works.
the gameplay experience for us. And this is working now, you know, and we're playing it every day in the studio, we're refining it, we're tweaking bits here and there, but we're at that stage now where we're tweaking and balancing. We've got the core
Other
features,
soft drinks are
they're
also
in the game
available.
label. And the difference it's made on the game for us is it's basically night and day.
Because the speeds have been limited in standard control mode, suddenly fights are a lot closer. The accelerations of ships similarly have been retuned a little bit, and their afterburner strength has been retuned a little bit to make it so that you can orbit around ships and have a lot more interesting maneuvering. And because the ranges are closer, maneuvers that would be performed by your ship have a much more significant impact because you're closer. So if I like thrust up or down, you'll immediately see the difference. So similarly, things
That'll
like
be better, you'll be able to
ships,
see it a bit more.
Effectively get a buff to their offensive capabilities.
Yeah,
with
it'll
change,
definitely make people
because suddenly you can't orbit a capital ship at
have to
high
think a lot
range,
more
high speeds. You
and
have
come
to
up
get
with a
lot
strategy
closer,
before you
which will
start
make the turrets
engaging
much
someone,
more
really.
effective at shooting you. Turrets become more important, and working as a group to attack capital ships
Oh,
is
he
more
did.
important than it has been before.
This is a really exciting change because it allows us to keep the combat speeds relatively low, where we know that the gameplay is better for that, while also keeping the point-to-point travel speeds as high as they should be for PU.
Playing with Master Modes in Squadron 42 has been a lot of fun, simply because it's changed the entire combat experience. Before, you'd find that you were fighting at a huge distance. Now you're finding that you're in really tight, close combat with the other players. I think the biggest part of this is going to be when we have the larger ships interacting with the smaller ships. Once we can have battles with big capital ships and smaller ships, we'll have brought something to the Star Citizen world that I don't think has come out before, and I think it'll make a massive improvement to the game.
Having made these changes to implement master modes and rebalancing all of the ship speeds, we'll finally be able to define ship roles in the
It's
way that
also,
we've always
more
wanted
buttons to map,
to
innit?
bring a lot
So-
more variety to the gameplay that we haven't had before.
So it's been a really long journey here, obviously, because you've been a part of this journey. You know,
Thanks,
we've
pal.
tried many different things over the time.
Very briefly.
To try and really create the experience we want. But, you know, the reality is from us, it came down to, you know, what it always is in Star Citizen, which is creating choice for the players. It's about giving players the option, and their choices have consequences. You know, so with master modes, it really helps define the player choice in the game. So they're choosing to do combat, they're choosing to travel from A to B in quantum, they're choosing to QT boost somewhere. Just giving players that freedom within the universe we have is just, like, it's a really magical thing, and we try many times to control that as, you know, as designers, to try and get a specific experience at some point, but we always end up coming back to the fact, let's just give the players the choice and let them make the key decisions, and we'll design the balance around that.
We finally have it. So we're now nailing down the space combat experience for Star Citizen, specifically for Squadron 42. We know from internal playtest that the master mode stuff works. We know that it works with our flight retunings, and it's very exciting. It will yet take a while to ship this to the PU, because the amount of ships you fly in Squadron 42 is rather limited, whereas in Star Citizen we have about, I don't know, more than 100 ship records at the moment. But
And
the
most of your
whole
workforce is
hard
working on
problem of
Squadron
designing this
42.
thing in the first place is over. We just need to get the numbers in now.
And all the footage you've seen today is from Squadron. It's all currently playable in the game. That, you know, internally, that, you know, we're playing this every day. We're still making some tweaks, but everything is there right now. It's all about the foundational kind of tweaks that we're making, and we can't wait to get it in your hands.
So thanks a lot for listening.
2
to us
years
today.
still,
We're very,
minimum.
very excited to get the changes to you as soon as possible. And yeah, we'll hope to see you fighting in the verse.
Fighting is
So, I've got, out of everything here, I've got all the chicks on Nyx love my Lando Fever.
Of course.
What you got, Brian?
Wow. Who is most likely to win in a dogfight?
Okay.
An Ortwin.
Ortwin. Shout out to Ortwin. It's been a long time.
Hey, Ortwin.
My one is, my cargo hold is always full of Chris Roberts.
Really? Show the camera.
There you go.
Ah. Right. That's Vanduul Against Humanity, a game created by one of our own Star Citizen, one of the original Star Citizens, Mr. Ken Shadow. We still got it. It made the trip to UK, and we are playing it in between the sessions. So thank you again, Ken Shadow. John, oh, I dropped the cards. It's gone. Talk to me about this segment we just watched. Is this BS, or do we actually have it?
I think we've got it. The team's been super hard at work for quite a long period of time.
At least he's trying to call them out on it as well. Is this
I don't know
bullshit
how many
or
versions of this?
yeah? Have we got it?
Sort of run out of interesting names to call all the development builds. We're on to fish names now. Yeah, it's been a lot of work put into this.
Fish
a lot of
names.
testing
That's a good
internally,
shout.
Like across the company.
Personally, can't wait to fly my new haddock
Getting more on
across the
board, getting
verse.
them Playing it, feeding back.
And I know we don't generally do when questions, but this is a pretty big change to the overall flight experience. Folks have been waiting for this fix for a while.
Yeah.
We're not talking about tomorrow or next week or give us why isn't this just going to be put into the PU tomorrow?
Two factors. We started doing this for Squadron because naturally, to have a great flight experience in Squadron, you need it to all work together. So we're focused on Squadron first for that, and Squadron has a much smaller subset.
As we know, most of their team is on Squadron 42.
It's a lot easier to do a system like this, get the broad strokes in, and then really dial it in for 6 or 7 ships versus the hundreds in the PU. So it's a scale thing that stops it going in the PU straight away. And then the other thing is lots of it ties in together.
I get it makes sense, and they need to get this
so
Squadron
it's not
42
just
out
flight mechanics. It's
soon, really.
star map,
They
quantum,
said
changes.
news came out, didn't it? Said it would be
all of
another
that
2
in
years,
one.
but
We can't really piecemeal it.
they've got to have
just won't
something
get
soon.
a great experience if we go, oh, here's one bit of it, here's another bit later.
And then they can focus then, you know.
Deployment.
But doing this long is it is a long
Or
time
do you think more together all at once?
for a single player game to come
have
out.
to
It's a
do,
long
like,
time.
A broad tuning across the board for everything.
Yeah.
Day one for when this goes into the PU. Hopefully by then a lot of those will be really.
And I've no doubts if it ever
As with
does
games
come
like
out,
and
it will
consoles.
probably be fantastic.
There will be ones that change over time.
But I do think they need to.
Change the camera.
I think the PU is very
There'll
important.
be ones that keep going, and obviously community feedback's a great thing. It's very hard to get things right out the gate. There's only so much internal testing you can do. We need that feedback at that point.
And I do want to say to folks who are watching, wherever you're watching, the 6 to 7 ships in Squadron was not a confirmation that there are only 6 or 7 ships in Squadron. We'll confirm that stuff much closer. Just if you're already halfway through your Reddit post, just delete a couple times and. All right, you ready to move on to the next thing?
Absolutely.
All right,
Let's do it.
So we've been bouncing back and forth between.
Yeah, that is true, and that's another reason why I need to get it out,
Planets of
Phoenix.
Pyro, and then gameplay
Long
stuff
ass
with
time, innit?
investigations, and back to the really
I don't know, yeah,
hard
the
shows
original
with the underground
Kickstarter that
facility,
was
then
just
back to
Squadron
the solid
42.
gameplay stuff with the flight experience.
But the PU is
Up
so
next is another really solid visuals.
potential-wise.
thing.
The PU
Lorville.
is absolutely
Lor-
crazy.
Give me
I
camera
think.
one. Lorville, Star Citizen's first landing zone. We've learned a lot since it was first put in. We've
That
built
pocket
Microtech,
rocket
we've
being
built
out of
Ravage,
line.
We've built Orizon,
It's winding me up.
Crusader. We even went back and redid Area 18 and ArcCorp. But Lorville currently stands as the oldest standing landing zone in Star
It's
Citizen.
just Lorville
And
rework.
with our new team at Turbulent and ready to kick butt, and I was going to say kick names and take butt. I almost messed that up, and then I messed it up trying to explain that I didn't mess it up. They're getting ready.
Move.
They're already underway building a brand new Lorville Redux.
Yes.
So we'll send it on over to Eric Gagnon and Maxime Guidon.
Yes, that's what I'm thinking, Phoenix. That's why.
And they can tell you all about it.
That's why they need to nail Squadron 42. They need to nail it. if it's a flop, it's going to really screw things up. And then I don't know how it will shift to the PU. I don't know.
And today we're going to talk about an internal initiative called Lorville 2.0. Now with Lorville, and specifically the Lorville Cityscape, it was probably the first major landing zone we'd ever had to do. It was the first time we put a landing zone on the planet, and we had the player fly there with minimal restrictions, although it did have that really big
I wonder how this is going to look.
When we did subsequent landing zones, we built up a bit more of a knowledge base and experience base about how we can effectively introduce cityscapes. So Area 18, New Babbage, Horizon, we all developed more techniques, and we always wanted to go back internally and put that knowledge back into Lorville. To start us off, I'll throw it over to Eric, our principal concept artist, and he can show you some more.
Hi, my name is Eric Gagnon.
Hello, Eric. Gagnon.
Star Citizen and Turbulent in Montreal, and I'm here to talking about the Lorville 2.0.
Hit me up.
When I started to work on the concept, initially what I did is to create
Tom, you right, mate?
sketches.
Just in the Lorville rework.
Different approach of that city. We create
Lorville 2.0.
silhouette of the building. Mainly the reason we need to work on that is for mainly gameplay issues, because we would like to make a gameplay in the interior buildings, and we need to create a bigger city to let the player
have
a fun experience to flying through that.
See, what I want to see is like slums as well that you can go to, you know, more undergroundy areas that you can do dodgy dealings, get different missions from dodgier people, you know. That'd be cool. But it's asking a lot because, you know,
and it's built
a lot of detail.
So this is mainly the two main units I used to build a city. So we have a kind of a proportion in terms of lengths and distances to respect. So this is why I used the 3D basis to working on that. So I need to make sure that the ratio of everything fits well to approach closely as possible. So mainly the goal is not to dig right away on the details, but it's to stay on the big picture and to see if the skyline makes sense. So this is a good challenge to play with that, and I think I did a nice job on that, because at the end, what the feeling we have, it's like a real city. So I use my my 2D background and concept artist to make
there are some shady back alleys,
the best as possible concept art.
But it'd be nice to see some like
techniques inside of it, 3D pen to over sketching.
Not completely cyberpunk, obviously, but the way they had some dodgy areas in the cyberpunk game,
concept to
you know, with the doctors, Ripper docs and all that.
And they make sure
dodgy dealing kind of areas. That'd be cool.
And they could say, well, okay.
Have a few NPC gangs hanging around. I don't mean gangs in leather jackets clicking like Grease. I mean, like, you know, ones that you'd be a little scared of.
A lot of fun internally developing that cityscape. Now, we're not just in concept development. We've actually just passed our white box milestone internally, so we're going to jump over to Max, and he's going to show you where we're at.
Come on, Max.
Mon nom est Maxime
Hello.
Quédon. Je suis chef environnement artiste.
Working on Star Citizen project.
Mon mandat en ce moment.
My current mandate is Lorville 2.0.
Premièrement, je voudrais dire bonjour à la communauté.
Hi to the French-speaking community as Star Citizen,
À toute la communauté en
and also to the whole community.
Ce que vous faites, ce que vous partagez m'inspire énormément dans mon travail.
Time to build.
From the concepts done, it's time to
That's
start
true,
the
Tom,
mission.
yeah.
And,
I just want the gangs.
We
To make it dangerous for you to go on foot into a place to see someone or get a certain mission, I think
much bigger than the initial
it could introduce something
up to something
a little different, especially if you're going to be a criminal.
Keeping the L19
You know, and that's the
area,
path you want to take,
including
then
the CBD. We're keeping the spaceport, and we're building upon this, and just
then maybe they could do
extending
something with
the
that.
city. We've done several tests.
That could all be
with,
future stuff and things, though.
the transit system.
Ultraviolence, oh yeah. You
and,
gotta.
we try to extend
If
it
I
a bit. We're
can't
keeping the
drop
same
into
number
a
of
place in
gates,
Star Citizen,
but we're moving,
start walking
moving
down to
them
a dodgy
out.
area and get my arm ripped off by
throughout
someone.
these tests, we've built
Is it even a
city,
game? I don't think so.
As just placeholder, white box, very primitive, to have this layout, this fast iteration of the whole city done, and then
Excuse
that
me.
we could see it and get feedback on it. So it will feel more like a believable city. We hope it to be fun to fly around, and like to actually do some races in it. We're building arches, bridges, and like underpasses, and it makes it interesting to be able to fly around. We see the community.
Does look amazing, to be
players,
fair.
They're doing like emerging.
I haven't seen Clockwork Orange for
races, and that
absolute
inspires us.
years.
And then the way that we're building this city. We are starting now the gray box. We have like Montreal's tools teams now that are working on like Houdini tools. And
Houdini tools.
we're chatting with them.
Is that when the game's going to disappear? Because that would be rather upsetting.
On the library of tools, there will be several areas of like a higher level of detail, especially around landing pads on rooftops and lookout areas. And these are the places where the players will be able to land. These will eventually connect to the interior space that will be built later. And in that sense,
see you later, Tom. Have a good time, mate, if you can.
We started as a team of 2 artists working on
Thanks for dropping in, dude.
Or 5, and we could even be like more soon. Each artist has slightly different skill sets, and we complete each other. They bring ideas.
I mean, I can't moan. Looking at this now, I have no idea.
Advance what we're doing, make it kick-ass. That's really important. So I hope you'll like what you see, and we can't wait to show you more. I'm happy about the opportunity of working on this mandate, because it's gonna make such a huge difference.
Thanks, Max. That's looking great, and hopefully you guys can kind of see, even in a white boxing format, we're seeing really good scale reads and understanding about how we can make the cityscape of Louisville probably one of our best.
Yeah, I think it's going to look absolutely badass when it's done.
Soon. Thanks for letting us showcase that for you today. Enjoy the rest of the show.
Thank you. Look at that. Fair play, that looks pretty damn cool. It's quite a big rework, isn't it, to be fair? A lot going on.
So you've taken the one that had the most egregious no-fly zone, and you're making it so we can just race through the canyons and under the bridges and everything. I'm going to ask you the same question I asked John Crew. Is this BS, or is this really what we're doing?
No, that's what we're doing, and hopefully you can see in the B-roll that you can actually see it. And you know, no-fly zones, you know, they were there for a reason at the time, but as we grow, as we learn, we find ways to have a better player experience with that regard. And if you see it, how we
exactly,
platforms
Phoenix.
working with New Babbage,
I mean, that is on the cards, isn't it, for the future? And
because ultimately, that no-fly zone there is for a reason. It's
that'd be
not
pretty
because,
cool.
Oh, you know what would be really cool?
We can meet up in game. You can come round to mine.
You know,
You can
we
bring a
wanna
pizza.
keep the player
I'll have the beers
experience
ready, and then
at,
we'll
you know,
sit
the
down
maximum
in the
level,
apartment
so
and we'll
it's there.
play
But for Lowville, as you've seen, you know,
Star Citizen
we
in
want
Lowville.
that experience to
In
be as
Star Citizen.
low as possible
Might be
to
too
get
far.
that
That's
feeling
like an
of
Inception thing.
weave in
My
between
brain's
the
hurting
buildings,
thinking
weave
about it.
in between the buildings.
But it'd be cool if you
It
could
was
then obviously
always
use your stuff. You can furnish it,
something
and
like as we progress through the landing zones.
I mean, you could
so
basically live in the game,
one
couldn't
day-
you? Which
One day we'll get back to Lowville, so
would be really cool.
That was seen as now.
And you know, we've discussed the art pipeline for years. We've been doing, you know, like I said, we're here for celebrating our 10th anniversary this year. We've been talking about how games are developed, and we've gone through the pipeline a number of times, from white box to gray box to stuff like that. Where would you say Lorville is? Obviously, what we were just seeing there is not finished.
Final art. We're in the final art phase. So basically, blockout white box is obviously self-explanatory. Interestingly, grey box phase, I'm thinking more like first pass art. You know, so we're always trying to keep the team on the toes. But grey boxing is terminology that we've used on all art disciplines, and it's kind of. But when you're using kits, and you're in grey boxing, you're not actually traditionally grey boxing. So we'll probably just call it like first pass art. But where Lowville is right now, we just passed the grey box review gate a few weeks back, so it's final art now. So we're on the really interesting.
Yeah, it'd be pretty cool, wouldn't it?
You know, really good engine look dev. I mean, you're seeing hints at.
We could chill out in the apartment while
but there's still
while Spy goes off for a race, and we can watch him on our projector in the apartment.
Just on another step on our journey to.
And then obviously halfway through the race, when he turns into fire, it'll be like a nice little fireplace on the screen.
4.0 is more akin to a journey to 4.x. The things that we're showing you today are not a list of this is what's in 4.0. Some of this will be in 4.0, like the planets and moons of Pyro and stuff like this. Other things will be in 4.1, 4.2, 4.3, and we'll know which as we get closer to development. Anybody that's followed the project long enough.
The long road, yeah.
That's how this works. But everything you're seeing on today's show here is everything that's in the process, in the pipeline, being developed now for 4, 4.1, 4.2, 4.3, and so forth. And before we jump to the next one, I want to shout out a couple of the other promotions that are going on.
I know.
The digital goodies pack is going out there. You get a Finley plushie. It's not called.
But if
Finley
you're
anymore,
sitting
it's
in the
called
apartment
Francis.
with me,
Look at that beforehand. There's a new jumpsuit that's
you know, you can't drive, so you'll have to go for it.
Skin. That's free to all backers. Just register your account and pick up any one of the pledge packages and whatnot, and that stuff's yours.
Although we could have maybe a Cutty Red at the ready, you know, go pick him up.
In-game watch party screenshot for a chance to win. I know there are a number of watch parties going on right now. Shout out to the folks down in San Diego, who I saw on Twitter earlier. The JRDF contests are partners at JR Design and Fabrication. Create a ship model using only ordinary and random household objects.
Hey dude, how you doing?
For a chance to win. They make these models that you see here. The wonderful star kitten, a dragonfly. Switch to Ian's camera. I'm gonna put this in there like this. Look at that. Oh, it's not in focus. Hold on. Let me get closer to his face. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do this. No. Take it down there. Look at my star kitten dragonfly in focus because I'm holding it near Ian's face. Isn't that great?
Did you just smell it?
What did it smell like?
I thought about tasting it.
JRD Fabrications.
Grant, how you doing, mate?
Wonderful Star Citizen models. They have an entire array. You can check it out the website, or you can enter the contest for your chance to win a Carrack, a Freelancer, or a Cyclone. And then don't forget
I was gonna say, how early is it there?
With scary helmets and
what we on here? 6 p.m. here.
That's always my favorite. I think every single winner we've ever had has been from Texas. I don't know why that is, but they take their pumpkin carving.
Get the coffee on the go.
Down there. All right, so we've rambled on enough. Let's throw it to the next presentation. Now, I'm going to set this one up here. I'm going to put this.
I've heard just grinding the beans up and just rubbing them into the corners of your eyes. You know, it really helps out.
Resource management.
Before you go to A&E.
What did I want to say about this? Okay.
Ooh, 4 a.m.
I backed the project back in 2013, 2014, before I came here. The thing that excited me most about Star Citizen was the potential for multi-crew gameplay.
Well, you're doing well, holding on. 4 a.m. I'd probably be.
Captain and a navigator. And
I'd probably be sleeping.
And a comms person, and run down and put out a fire, and something's exploding in the cargo hold. You got to go and fix the fuses and stuff like this. That multi-crew experience has been what drew me to the project. First as a backer, until I came in to do this. On a spaceship. Did I mention I have a spaceship? I have a spaceship. And if you're like me, on our 10-year journey, I've been wondering when's going to be the day. Where are we at with this stuff? Well, Dan Truffin and Thorsten Lyman.
It's a great question.
To talk about the actual working prototypes of the resource management system, the thing that will make true multi-crew gameplay possible, and the last big hurdle to getting those capital ships into the game. So,
Surely Spy can't explode things in the kitchen as well. Spy can't explode everything, surely. If he can, well, there's an issue.
Hi, my name is Dan Truffin. I'm Assistant Director for PU Content. And
hello, Dan Truffle.
Thorsten Lyman here today. We will be talking to you about something we think it will change the way Star Citizen functions and works, and how the players will play the game in the future.
We turn the servers off. Oh, that'll do it. As we know it.
Resource management is the underlying system that allows items to produce, consume, and store resources in the game. It is the digital representation of real-life cables, pipes,
yeah, I underestimate Spy a lot, I think.
Like this that you can imagine.
It's the foundation of the ships. Where
I just make sure he doesn't get pets.
Like fuel and energy powering certain items on the ship.
It's got to be difficult scraping dog off the wall.
The system that will lie below any station or any vehicle, anything that you can imagine in our universe that actually requires a certain type of resource.
Resource management is not just a system that helps ships function. It is a thing that's integral to the functionality of the entire universe. It will be the way surface outposts function, underground facilities, space stations, landing zones, everything in Star Citizen will function using resource management.
So we will start with the smaller vehicles, and the gameplay for those smaller vehicles way more interesting than what we have right now. And from that we can move on to like bigger ships, and finally the capital ships will have a real purpose in the world, and where it will have a real meaning that
well, you have to make him clean it up. It's his fault.
Drastically increase the time to kill for all vehicles in Star Citizen.
Straight after getting back from medical. Tusspan and Bush is over there. You know what to do.
Increase in scope and
you missed a bit.
Scale up a lot more with the use of resource management, as players will be able to cripple resources, change the way resources are distributed, cut power, cut certain fuel and critical parts in order to progress further in those missions.
We can suddenly scale a lot bigger than what we have right now, and the reasons are that we have more control over the powers of certain platforms there, and we can introduce some interesting gameplay that facilitates these functionalities.
Resource management is going to open up the possibility of player structures, player-owned outposts on planet or stations in space.
And there it is, the player-owned buildings.
Resources, bring in fuel, do repairs. And this will not be something that only caters towards the engineer. This will be something that is valuable for everyone in the world of Star Citizen.
Resource management will finally allow players to build their own bases and their own homesteads, and actually keep that loop engaging and fun.
And really, this is the main thing that makes multi-crew gameplay possible.
I'd like to own
the players taking
like a slightly dodgy space garage where you can fly down, pick me up. You can fly down, park your ship up. I can fix it up for you. You can buy new power plants, shields, etc. from me for slightly cheaper than you would do. But then on the flip side of that, what I can do, I could go out, take down a few criminals, take parts off their ship, and that's what I can use to sell. You know, I think that'd be quite cool. I can go hull stripping, and then when you come down with your ship, I can repair it with what I've stripped off. And oh crap, I think that'd be pretty cool. Master modes will be interesting, yeah. That definitely going to be interesting. What's happened? No, everyone's getting it. Doesn't look like it's me. Everyone's typing F or 30k in chat. Hold on, let me just. Oh, incorrect. And it's gone. 20k, 700k. Right, let's see if we can get the the stream back. Because yeah, it's gone.
A heat generator
there we go.
In order to maintain a well-oiled and balanced ship, and overall prioritizing certain items and their resource consumption.
But yeah, master modes are going to be. I think they're going to come into play quite well, and it gives us all something a little bit more to think about, especially during flight, because that's something that's fairly easy right now, which is a good thing. I don't think it's going to make it a lot more difficult, but I think it's just something that needs to be done, especially for dogfights and stuff. And it's another button to bind, so you know, a little bit of work for you there.
Human livable factor, so you don't freeze to death, or you are not cooked.
As part of item maintenance, the player will be able to.
It's a weird way of saying it. So you are not cooked, but I like it.
They will be able to remove broken items and replace them with new items, or sometimes dodgy items, depending on their income. They will be able to control which sub items are.
So this is the bit you see that I want to find out what's going to happen. It sounds quite clever.
Run repair gameplay and replace broken fuses when the item stops working or takes enough damage.
Relay handling is the actual management part that you as
that was my issue. That was my issue, Grant. I thought so. If you get interdicted now,
basically
you get pulled out of your quantum, then everything has to start spooling up. Your shields, your weapons. You're vulnerable for enough time for you to be fucked before you even get everything online. And I think that's going to be a bit of an issue. But I'm sure they'll figure it out.
Create the best possible outcome for your ship.
With access control, we're introducing ship roles. The captain will be able to assign certain roles to each of his crewmates, and for example, say one of the player becomes the engineer, which gives them
when are we getting beards as well?
Controls, while the person that
we demand beards
will not have access to those controls. At the same time, a gunner will only have access to a specific gun or all the guns of the ship.
And finally, gravity. So gravity is the concept that you experienced already in every ship. So there's always a ground, there's always a down, there's always an up. And we
I absolutely love it when that happens.
Control over that. So because it requires some energy, and if you want to run your ship more energy efficient, we want you to allow to switch off gravity. Or there might be other use cases where a zero gravity environment is more useful than another one.
So if it wasn't clear by now, the scope of resource management touches pretty much every aspect of life in Star Citizen. So we're doing a lot of talking, but I bet what everyone would like to know is where are we with all of this right now?
Yeah. What he said.
Currently, we have working in-engine prototypes of the following systems: power, gravity.
You'd be surprised, Phoenix.
With a power system, we can
it can happen quite a lot.
And underpower items. We can set the priorities of item producers and consumers.
I used to do it a little bit. I'm alright now.
We can set the
but when I got my mate on,
resources inside the ship through the
it was fun to watch.
Relay network.
And with the power system, we already can distribute the base energy and base fuel throughout the ship. So we can make sure that
Big
each
delay.
item actually gets the resources they need. Creating
It's probably my settings.
Is
I won't lie to you. I'm not the best at all this stuff, Grant.
The most efficient routes that the energy or the resources,
But God loves a trier, you know.
to take throughout your ship.
We can also demonstrate many aspects of the life support.
It'll be good once you get the relays and stuff in. I think that'd be quite cool. Ah, suffocation. Must be informed via an engineering station. Okay. So you can vent out the room, and he's going to die. And then repressurize. If you didn't already know, he's already dead. Ah! This is cool. Oh, for God's sake, again. This isn't me, by the way. This is, unfortunately, this is the stream itself. Yeah, everyone's saying 30k and F in the chat again. So, I'll refresh it. Come on. Yeah, it is about time, and oh dear God, dear God. Fire suppression is quite a cool thing when you think about it. I think their streams had an absolute fit. Oh, there we go. We're back-ish. Cheers, Phoenix. It was, yeah, it's definitely their side. Room full of lonely eye volunteers. Look at them. Poor fuckers. On the screen, we can see that this many people are slowly depleting the available oxygen in the room. Tell you what, there's some advanced stuff. Clever stuff, innit? So,
and making players suffocate again.
You sickos. I know, oh yeah, I like details like that. It's good. When you sneak aboard someone's ship and if you can access the engineering terminal, can you just suffocate everyone that's on the ship if they haven't got a helmet on? Gravity off. EVA. Smart. Ah, yes. Saboteur sneaks on board to remove a relay fuse. Bonk. One won't do it alone. But it grabs another relay. Shields are down. That's cool.
In the last year, we've made tremendous progress with the resource management system, but with a system that is this big,
Good
and
shout,
complex,
Phoenix.
we do
Yeah,
not want to rush
but
into it.
I
We
mean,
just get it right.
yeah,
Get it right from the beginning. So let's talk about what's next for the resource management system.
there'll be a way around.
As you can tell, resource management is a huge endeavor for us.
So like everything else, we'll probably not get everything in the initial release.
Why not?
But this is what we're aiming for. Interactable and accessible items on ships, relay gameplay, changing fuses on the relays, resource balancing, defining control groups that will be accessible through the MFDs, allowing people to create presets for your resource network for each ship, an engineering UI with at least a list or schematic view of your ships, external engineering screen for ships, allowing engineers to define the tuning parameters that can be accessed by the pilot with the press of a button, like loading presets and creating presets. And after the initial release, everything else will fall into place with subsequent patches. We started talking about resource management about 2 years ago. It is pretty much the evolution of what used to be the old pipe system, and this has been an interesting journey, and finally we're starting to see the fruits of our labor, and we're starting to see all the possibilities of gameplay that we can open up to the players in the future. It's exciting to work on something that's so central to the world of Star Citizen and that can impact the
gameplay
you're
right, mate.
Of so many people, irrelevant of what they choose to do in the world of Star Citizen.
Resource management is the most exciting feature that I've ever worked with. It's such a groundbreaking feature that...
What will be groundbreaking currently is a take all button. Or transfer.
I think we never had this opportunity to change the game into this direction where we are heading right now, where we will finally have all the tools in place to actually allow meaningful multi-crew gameplay and meaningful decisions for all the players, where every decision counts. This is the stuff that makes me really proud of it.
Hey Phoenix, do you know if there's any ship sales on at all?
Share our progress with you, and we hope you're happy with all this progress and have a nice CitizenCon.
Or any link to this sort of CitizenCon.
This Star Citizen Singapore card is really cool. They've just been staring at me playing with it for the last 18 minutes. That was that was Dan Truffin and Torsten Lyman talking about the resource management system. And joining us to follow up on it is Todd Pappy, John Crew.
Sell all.
This has been a long time coming. I know we still got a ways to go. I'm not.
But transferring stuff's annoying as well, you know.
But I mean,
next month, yeah, I thought it might. I thought they might have put a ship out or a couple of ships, but it's a month away, and i.e.,
like you said,
that'll be the big sales.
The multi-crew stuff, but like again, it's not only going to be in ships. We're also putting it in environments.
Yeah, this is what's necessary to have player homesteading. You know, one of the components. It's not the only thing.
But it's about just bringing the interaction into the environment.
I won't say I've got money to burn, but I've got some money that I want to do stuff with.
It's having that interaction level that you don't normally get in games. So that's what we're looking for. Being
able to make, imagine Siege of Orison, but being able to actually assault the platforms and depower the platforms. Missions that can take place inside the landing zones where you can cut power to buildings and stuff like this. I mean, this is what really opens the game.
Yeah.
And John, as they said in the segment, the first place this is going to come is ships.
Yeah.
So, what's the first version of this look like?
So first version.
I like the
is
room
gonna
though
be,
that they're in.
a lot of what you saw in that video.
Kinda
So
wish
we're working through some of the ships now.
I could make this look like that.
Hammerhead, Hulle, Star Runner, just to prove out a few things, because naturally.
You want the Vulcan,
some
Grant?
ships were built a long time ago.
I want a lot of
Times
things.
were built with this sort of level of detail in mind.
There was I tried the Carrack and the Free Fly. That ship's rather amazing in my personal opinion. I like the way it looks and all the stuff it's got in it. It's just spot on, but it's massively expensive. So
just being a ship you're on board to like
for me anyway.
Piece of the puzzle that gives you that multi-crew game.
So I don't think I can. Not when I could, especially if I'm doing YouTube videos.
That's about it.
The more ships I've got, the better, really. So I think I should go for cheaper ships, just more of them, and then I've got more scope to do videos with. But
it's going to be a very bad time for all involved.
Yeah, I said before we set it up, this is the aspect of Star Citizen that first drew me, in. So it has been I feel like I've been very patient and waiting and really wanting to see this go. And as I see everybody on EUPU and everybody that's contributing to this thing, it's just super exciting to see it really beginning to evolve and really beginning to be used tangibly in our prototypes and stuff like that. And it's just
the Vulture looks quite good though. I'm kind of tempted whether or not to get the Vulture because it'll probably go up in price.
Still do that. I'm not changing my tune.
So.
This is the part of the thing that I've been waiting for personally.
Yeah. Oh, the Starfarer, is it?
Excited. All right, so
I think the Vulture loaner is
from the
Prospector, if I remember.
The gameplay, the visuals, to the gameplay.
Yeah, I'm good, Swifty, mate. How are you, man? I'm just tired from work. Work's been destroying me, but
Ship Talk, talking ship.
I've got a
annual celebration of.
I've had an interview for a different role in my work, and they offered me the job. They offered me the job on Wednesday, I think it was. So things should get easier for me a little bit soon when I start, which is good news. We're not talking about that big platypus thing again. All right, Phoenix, get over yourself.
Hi everyone, my name's John Crew. I'm the
But no, I really want to see it as well.
Games. This year I'm once again joined by Ben Curtis, Vehicle Art Director, and Paul Jones, Concept Art Director, and this is our yearly Ship Talk panel.
Don't want to leave them hanging.
We'll be talking about something coming soon, something being announced today, something coming up
Yeah, I
later,
can't wait, Swifty. It actually means more time off.
The Pick a Ship or Vehicle concept series.
Nothing huge. They talked about.
To kick things off this year, we're going to be talking about our new concept ship, which is the Crusader Spirit. This is
I can't even think of what they called it.
Ships from Crusader
your relays and sort of your storage and how things are going to be sort of held in different places and stuff. It's more backgroundy stuff that they talked about.
Two standout competitors to this ship,
naturally, but they did talk about pressurization and gravity as well. So you could start removing oxygen from certain parts of the ship, things like that. So you could technically suffocate people. They had a lot of sickening images of poor civilians in the game getting suffocated in multiple rooms.
We have three variants of the Crusader
Horrible to watch, really was, Tom.
The C1, which is the cargo hauler version. We
Oh,
have
that's
the
nice.
A1, which is the light to sort of medium bomber version. And then we have the E1, which is the executive VIP transport version.
The electric one.
Really nice features of the Spirit series.
The C1 looked quite nice, actually.
The front half of the ship is kind of like this shared
He looks tired, like really tired. Look at the bags under his eyes.
Is the cargo hauler version. This comes with 48 SCU of cargo capacity in the central area. Accessible like the other versions via the rear ramp. It's wide enough to allow a variety of ground-based vehicles on board, such as the Cyclone. You won't be fitting larger things in it like the tank. However, with the size of the cargo bay on the C1, you can put a vehicle and still have some cargo capacity left over. The A1 is the bomber version of the Spirit, which sort of splits the difference between the Hercules A2's bomb
looks nice, that.
which has both size 10 and size 3 bomb options. This comes with size 5 bombs, and they are arranged in 2 vertical
It's all right, Sam.
gravity dropped formations down each side of the central area. So you have a nice little walkway.
These
down
look
the middle,
nice, though.
And then you have the 2 sort of lines of bombs each side of you, and you'll be able to see them drop out of the bottom of the ship.
It delivers a different role to what the Starlifter does in terms of the bomber. I think it's a much kind of smaller, faster ship, so it's much more agile. You're going to be kind of getting in and out, and doing your bombing run, and then getting back out of the danger zone quite quickly. So it feels quite familiar in that sense, but it does deliver a unique kind of play style compared to the Starlifter.
So you might be asking yourself which one's better, and it really depends on what you want to wipe off the face of the planet that you're bombing. Obviously the A2 has both heavy hitters and what could be described as carpet bombing, whereas this is sort of for when you don't want to completely annihilate everything on the ground. And lastly, we have the E1 variant, which solely exists to give Jared heartburn over his Starliner. So
More
this is a
pinpoint
sort of
bombing,
taste
if that's a
of
thing.
Starliner will get in the future, but on a much smaller scale.
VIP1 is a really interesting module. It's basically split into two levels, and so we really wanted to sort of have that VIP experience. Obviously,
how cool is the concept art look?
Your old ship, but when you get into the module, you've got lockers, space, space to put any sort of personal belongings. Essentially, you go into 2 elevators, left or right, and take you up to the top deck. So it has that sort of first-class feeling.
I think what really
When are we going to see sort of passenger transport for AI?
Panoramic glass roof. So when
And how's it going to work? That's what I'm.
Area, you're going to have great views and be able to kind of.
I don't know how you're going to get it.
In something that I think is going to be.
You're going to have to land somewhere and load them up.
We also have.
Are they actually going to be physically walking into your? I very much doubt that, but
which is basically where players can go.
I guess you'll just pull in.
Whatever the drink it is, so it's cocktails or coffee.
And then
will also have
click load or board,
have
and then they'll just appear in the back.
Screen TV in the module.
I'm really excited to see when we start getting our players and our AIs into these ships and being able to kind of explore the verse and
yeah,
experience that kind of luxury living that I've not yet to experience.
So between the 3 variants, there are a number of shared areas. The sort of core of the ship changes with each variant, but there are some aspects which don't need to change. And starting from the front of the ship, you naturally have the cockpit or the bridge. So like other Crusader ships, you have the side-by-side pilot to co-pilot arrangement. Then you have behind them their living quarters / bunk area and component access. And then you have the variant section which does change the sort of internal floor plan of the ships between them. Then at the rear of the ship you naturally have the ramp access area. So that's the Crusader Spirit. We're hoping
so on a rail as well by the looks of it.
And seeing what it can do in the game in the future. From something at the very start of our vehicle
nice
production
colours.
pipeline to something nearing
Looks
the end
smart.
of the pipeline, let's talk about the Drake Corsair next. The Drake Corsair is an important ship in their lineup because it fills that multi-crew exploration gap in their
Yeah,
lineup.
show us more of this because this could be a good ship.
Various usage and roles, such as the Buccaneer and Cutlass. In this size class, you naturally have the Constellation, the 600i as the competitors, and what Drake brings is its usual rugged, overwhelming amount of firepower for its size, sort of classification to that entry.
OTT.
Dedicated exploration.
Which ship, Tom?
It's a
The passenger or the Corsair?
Deep space vessel, effectively. Got crew for up to 4, or space for up to 4 crew. It's got a sizable cargo hold, and it's kind of got everything that you need to really spend a decent amount of time away from civilization, away from stations, and just kind of being able to chart out those deep areas of space. It brings that sort of no nonsense, no frills approach to the ship, and you know if something's going to go wrong, it's going to be something that you more than likely can fix, and it's not going to be something that you have to cut back to a main dealer to get serviced and fixed. It's something that hopefully you and your crew will be able to kind of repair and get back up and running, or just fix with some duct tape.
So fans, when they see
Duct tape fixes everything.
the ship, will immediately see the sort of heritage, the DNA that's running through the spirit. So you can kind of almost imagine.
See, I want a bigger ship.
It's got that military, easy fix.
Yeah, I don't know why it's lagging. I really don't.
Loaded with turrets.
We apologise, guys.
It has some really interesting mechanisms inside it, so I think the players will really dig that.
I think what's quite unique to the Corsair is wings, the way they fold.
I don't know if I can change it while it's on.
This isn't done purely
Highly
for style.
doubtful.
You know, being Drake, it's more there for function. It allows you to get in and out of the hangars much easier. We put quite a lot of effort into keeping that really iconic.
If it is me, I don't know.
Kind of
I'll figure it out.
And vision that we set, but still making it functional and making sure.
Good grief, full minute.
We're just kind of finishing up on final art.
I am good at this. I'm a professional.
The
Okay.
majority of it's core art time spent on it. We've still got lighting to do. We've still got kind of like final finishing to do, tweak some of the materials till we're kind of properly happy. But it's in a good place, so I'm really excited to be able to show you.
So let's take a look inside the ship. And
Cheers, Tom. Thanks again for letting me know, mate.
On the inside of the ship, we start right at the front on the cockpit.
I'll get it sorted for next time.
It also has quite a unique feel to its cockpit. In the pilot is kind of sat right up front, and then in kind of classic kind of Drake stylings, the co-pilot gets in the seat behind them and actually sinks down into the floor. That transition from the main cockpit area into that kind of co-pilot kind of section.
Quite cool.
It's you move right forward and you're sat pretty much underneath where the pilot is. It gives great visibility for both the pilot and the co-pilot. The other nice thing about this cockpit is, again, you've got these massive guns that are stuck out either side of you. So it should be a nice place to be. In the rear of the cockpit, we've got the captain's quarters. So the captain's quarters is actually pretty much identical to the rest of the quarters in the ship in terms of its kind of size and its amenities. As you move back through the ship, there's I guess a small kind of crossroads directly behind the bridge. From here, you can either progress backwards straight into habitation, or to either side, you've got the turret access. So it's right really at the kind of like the neck of the ship, effectively.
The side turrets have changed a little since the concept phase.
Okay, I'll have a look though, mate. But I'll probably have to end the stream, so I'll do it after I'll have a good look after it sort of finishes when I finish up, and see if it is anything that I can do.
Especially forward firing, which again,
the Corsair.
So many guns pointing forwards, having an extra two.
I don't know how much it's going to be.
Very Drake.
In habitation,
we'll have to see.
You've got the remaining 3 crew quarters that, being Drake, they are no frills. You've got a bed, you've got somewhere to store your gear, and that's pretty much it. The main habitation
I think the only reason I get this is I'll upgrade from the Cutlass I've got maybe to this, but it does depend how much it is. Because I do want a bigger ship, but I also want a luxurious, not luxurious, something a little bit luxurious, but practical.
The kind of chow line
is what I'd like as a bigger ship.
Food and everything you need to survive. And then right in the heart of the habitation area, there's a large kind of sizable seating area.
That reminds me of like Aliens or something.
To, have their meals. It's for somewhere that you can plan operations, plan your next move, and really decide where you're taking your adventure. As we move back from habitation, we start to get into like the rear half of the ship. I think if the habitation area is like the heart of the crew in the ship, then the engineering area is the real heart of the ship itself.
It's sort of this octagonal, hexagonal space with a few little rooms coming off it to cram components in. And off one of those you have the side airlock, which again has suit lockers and weapon lockers in there for before you go into EVA or docking or coming back out of, before you enter the rest of the ship.
And then you've also got the lift, and the lift not only goes down to ground level, but it also takes you up to the roof of the ship. So if you do want to go on a quick spacewalk, or you need to go and repair something on the exterior, then you've got kind of easy access straight up the lift and out you go.
Pretty cool.
Finally, at the rear, you have the main cargo hold, which has space for an Ursa rover or similar sized vehicles and down, along with a significant cargo capacity.
And being a Drake ship, there's a huge ramp on the back of it. All the mechanics are exposed. You can really see the workings of how the ship actually operates. If you're a fan of Drake, it certainly ticks all those boxes.
So I think the Corsair is a particularly cool ship. I love the styling of it, love the asymmetric wing arrangement of it. I think it's just going to be a great, fun addition to the game, giving those sort of players who enjoy that Drake experience their slice of the pie. And you'll be able to...
Which modules, Grant?
At IE this year. And a vehicle coming later today, a vehicle that's at the end of the pipeline, we have the Greycat STV.
Of course you do.
Racing is a cool and fun aspect of Star Citizen, and it's something that we've seen that backers really enjoy doing and organising amongst themselves, and something that we really want to help support from within CIG. So we wanted to bring a new vehicle to the verse, which is where the STV came from.
So the STV is the Greycat sports terrain vehicle. It builds on what they learned from the PTV, but it brings it out of the hangars, off of the tarmac, and onto much more rugged terrain.
It's a four-wheeler, two-person open-topped, sport styling, everything you need to razz around on the planet. So the STV is actually part of a wider family of vehicles. You may recognise a resemblance in the name to the Greycat PTV, which is also part of that family. And we also have a third vehicle lined up that we want to do in the future called the UTV, which is the utility terrain vehicle. And
then wheels.
Reconcepted the PTV, and we have the concept for the UTV. And when you see all three side by side, you'll see that family resemblance.
The interior again is similar design language, simple layout, easy to clean. That was a big thing for us, even though we don't have like a cleaning mechanic. All this sort of builds into the sort of visuals of the vehicle. So
easy to clean.
So it can easily let water through the seats.
Are they gonna put jet washing into the game?
Just quickly rip them out. And so all of this thinking goes into those kind of vehicles. The wheels are a big feature, large sort of rubber
right.
mud guards.
Got ya.
Just there's lots of.
There's a few ships like that, weren't there, that are meant to be modular to a degree.
Maybe
but again, we'll have to, like you said, wait out on that one. I don't think they've said it, but I arrived late to the party.
So the STV delivers that gameplay that is you and a buddy out exploring over our planets. We've got
STV not to be misheard in the verse, because it's not cool walking around the verse shouting you got an STD. People misheard.
It's not just a vehicle for you and a friend. It's also got kind of some cargo space in the back. So if you are out there doing missions, rather than having to fly your ships directly to where the mission is, it allows you to land slightly out there, slightly in a safer area. You've still got space to load up with weapons, load up with your whatever mission items you need, and get in and out nice and quick.
Compared to the Cyclone RC, which is a sort of racing variant of a non-racing vehicle, the STV was built from the ground up to be a good racing vehicle. It has a good chassis, it has better handling, it has better top speed, and that's what makes it a compelling racing choice.
The best things about Star Citizen as a whole is it kind of brings a lot of gameplay, and it's not all about combat. It's not all about flying these massive ships. And I think one of the things that a lot of us are excited internally about is racing within our game. A lot of us come from a racing background in terms of the games we've developed before. A lot of us are petrol heads at heart. So I think being able to build on that kind of gameplay in Star Citizen is super exciting for us.
And if you stick around to the end of the broadcast, you'll get your first chance at seeing the STV in action in a race organised by Atmo Esports, creators of the Daymar Rally, where you'll see it taking on the terrain for the first time. You'll be able to pick one of these vehicles up today at the end of the broadcast.
Oh, there you go.
And finally, the most important aspect of these inaugural shows, the Pick a Ship concept challenge thing. For those of you that have seen
great title, needs a bit of work.
Seen that we've thrown up some silhouettes of potential ship and vehicle options and asked for your feedback on which one we should actually make. And the wise among you have probably realised that we end up making pretty much all of them anyway. So instead of just doing that again and pretending that we're not going to do that, we thought we'd do something slightly different this year and just have a single ship option. And the choice is actually the manufacturer and the styling of that ship. So we want a nice large civilian mining ship that bridges the gap between the Argo Mole and the RSI Orion, because if you know those two ships, there is quite a gulf of space in between them. We wanted to fill that gap with an intermediary stepping stone before you jump into the big RSI Orion, which the scale of its mining is nothing like any other mining ship in the game. The Mole is the current mining system, just lots of it. So with this larger ship, we want to increase that and also provide onboard space for our ground mining vehicles such as the Rock and the Rock DS, which allows you the flexibility of taking on any mining situation that you can come across. So with that, we have three choices, which are basically the manufacturers. We have RSI as the first choice. Obviously RSI do the Orion, so this would be a smaller vehicle in that family. We have Argo, again, we have the Mole, so naturally it could be a larger step up from that. And then we have MISC, the third option. Obviously MISC do the Prospector, so again, keeping it all within the same family. As you can see from these images, they each have their sort of own unique styling take on that pitch that I've just given you. At the end of this ship talk panel, Jared will come on and explain
what
how
to choose.
vote on these three options. And that's the end of Talking Ship, so over to you, Jared.
That's a shame.
All right, so the Crusader Spirit is available now as a concept promotion on the robertsspaceindustries.com website. The STV is coming to...
I know, right?
Coming to the universe at the end of the broadcast, just in time for the Atmo Esports.
They should have let us pick, because out of all of them, it would have been funnier for me.
At this year's Intergalactic Aerospace Expo. And to vote on this year's
it would have been funnier to see an Origin
there is a
mining ship. A mining ship with all the mod cons and luxury of Origin.
So, John, recently, you went through and just nuked all the speeds of all the ground vehicles, and obviously you did that so that the STV could be the fastest.
That's certainly one take on, on what happened. To talk about it a bit more.
See you later, Phoenix. Cheers for stopping by, dude.
For quite some time. As we know, game development timelines go all
I'll see you in the Discord, mate.
So we'd actually done this for 318 Ivocati, which sadly did not come out before 317 went live.
Yeah.
So we did that because, quite frankly,
late.
vehicles were ludicrous speeds. Like 55 meters a second is like over 120 miles an hour off-road.
Yeah, off-road.
Off-road, 120 miles an hour is terrifying, especially on like Star Citizen planets with rocks that would just kill you. So we wanted to bring the cyclones down. We wanted to sort of rebalance everything. Not everything has gone as intended. Like the rocks and the Ursas are not quite where they should be. So we will go back and do more changes. But the idea was people will get to see it in 318. So it wouldn't be such a surprise in 317.3, which unfortunately is how it turned out.
But as far as the new ships go, the Spirit looks amazing.
Yes.
Like,
I know.
When you say I gotta ask you, you say this is a
but it is slightly funny, Grant, let's be honest.
Respect for
it is funny.
Starliner, which anybody should know is my favorite ship. That's still not out yet, John.
Here's a little taste what it could be.
When you say a little taste, what does that mean? I'm asking for me, not for these people. I'm asking for me. What does that mean?
So obviously the Starliner is quite an old concept. We didn't really do a huge amount of interior look development. So the time we spent on the Spirit E1, the E1 Spirit, is really what we're going to build on for that. So
it's if anyone's drove like a cherry picker or a forklift, the ground vehicles just have super slow speed, and they got the turtle and the hair button. So
Tony, it'll be fine.
If you've drove one of them, you'll know what I mean.
That sort of feel,
it's slow and slower.
We haven't really shown in Star Citizen.
That's what will be implemented soon.
Every man and their donkey was pestering me for that Horizon Shuttle concept, and we'd planned to do like a Crusader Cutlass competitor, which is its like internal working name, and I hated it because it got abbreviated to like the 3 Cs. We just called it the ship the 3 Cs the entire time. And then there was that sort of vocal uprising about, hey, John Crew, give me that Horizon Shuttle, and that sort of the two things merged together, and that's where it came from.
And then the Grey Cat STV, which will be our straight-to-drivable vehicle, going live on the website and stuff at the end of this broadcast. that's an exciting push in the Grey Cat.
Yes.
In the Grey Cat arena, it looks sporty as heck.
Yeah.
And it was neat to see a sneak peek of the UTV as well, which I'm assuming is going to come sometime later on.
Yeah, it's not in active development right now, but when we decided to do the STV, we were like, hey, let's spend the time, let's work out what Grey Cat as a manufacturer looks like and feels like, because we had the PTV, people have seen the big Spider Minor from back in the day. They're two very different things.
Right.
There wasn't really like a family lineage, so we built that family lineage around that, and we're like, here's the reworked PTV, still looks how everyone recognises it, but it sort of works with modern mechanics. Let's do a sporty version, let's do a utility version, and so we've got those three together now that you can really see like the family lineup, and they each do slightly different things, which is cool. But yeah, the STV is that beach buggy, dune buggy thing.
Let's move on.
No, it's really cool. I really like the styling of it. So, if you, we've got one small thing left, and then one rather large surprise left. So we'll do the small thing first, and then buckle up because I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you. I'll tell you in like 5 minutes. But before we get there, during last year's CitizenCon presentation, we explored a lot of the outlaw lifestyle, their outposts, the space stations and stuff. We thought we'd do a little sizzle to follow up on how those things have evolved in the year since. So get ready, we're gonna show a quick sizzle, and when we get back, there'll be a neat surprise. So stay tuned.
It best be a good surprise. Outlaw lifestyle. I'm not good enough to be an outlaw. It's a shame because I got the right attitude and mentality. I'm a dick. This all looks pretty cool. Won't lie to you. Will then be some drugs. That looks interesting. The thing is, Grant, that will be a surprise. Like, that would literally blow my mind. I think the stream would turn off. There's a whole world of things that are gonna happen if they fix the elevators and get PES working. Last time I heard about the PES, they were still trying to expand it to be able to work, because they're only using it locally, and it was like, you're only using it locally and it's working, that's great, but you've got an entire planet waiting for you to expand it out to all the players. So probably why 318 kept getting pushed back and back and back. Right, we're back in a minute while this is on. Cup of tea time, I think.
lifestyle, a glimpse at how the outposts and the space stations have evolved since we saw them at last year's CitizenCon 2951. Now, if you've been following our program today, you might think this is it. We're near the end, but we've got one more special surprise in store. Joining us on the show today are two people who probably need no introduction, but we're going to do it anyway. Founder and CEO, Mr. Chris Roberts.
Hello, everyone. How you doing?
How you doing?
I'm doing good, Jared.
Welcome to the spaceship. Welcome back to the spaceship. You opened the show today. I know. And Squadron 42 game director, Mr. Richard Tyrer.
Hello, how's it going?
Good. This is your first time on the spaceship.
It is. It is.
What you think?
I think it's very nice. Very
really
comfortable.
I'm just going to ask everybody how it thinks all day. So Chris, Rich, you're here. Are we going to talk a little bit about Squadron 42? Is that what we're doing right now?
Well, yes and no. So both me and Rich have been heads down working really hard on Squadron as well as helping out on the PU. And one thing that we've thought that would maybe better to reiterate is there's a huge amount of work that we're doing on Squadron that is going to make a massive difference to Star Citizen, the PU. And we
yeah, well, you're right to be skeptical, Grant, I won't lie.
I know a lot of people say, well, everyone's working on Squadron, no one's working on the PU, and that's not really true because a huge amount of the core gameplay that we're working on Squadron is specifically being built not just for Squadron, but to benefit the PU. And we're just doing it in sort of the test kitchen of Squadron to allow us to really, polish and make sure the features work well without having to be caught up in the sort of quarterly release cycle that you have on the PU, because we were finding it was hard for us to really finish the features out. You know, we'd get a tier 0 out, and then it would just sort of sit around for a while because everyone was rushing on to the next set of features they wanted to do. And for Squadron, obviously, we're
that makes sense.
Final polished AAA title, so everything needs to be really
still a long ass time though, Chris.
Working really well and playing great. And so we're trying in the setup that we're doing now to do that for the features that we've identified that we need to make sure works really well for Squadron, but also will play across into the PU. And so we thought it'd be really useful to come by and tell you all about some of the subtle things and the gameplay aspects that we're working on that maybe you haven't heard from Todd or Tony or everyone else that today and during the ISCs, because we sort of try to keep the Squadron stuff close to our chest to really sort of surprise and impress people when we do it. And so, we thought, why don't we just come by and maybe just talk about little things, maybe show you a sneak peek of something here and there, and not everything, because we're trying to keep it close to our chest until it's really ready to let the baby out of the carriage and it's beautifully dressed and all the rest of it. But hopefully it'll give you guys some insight to what's happening and also understand that a huge amount of the development resources, even if you think they're working on Squadron, are ultimately working on stuff that will be in the persistent universe.
Yeah, we know that. We know that.
Let's talk a little bit more about that.
Well, people should know that.
Features. This co-development has been part of the process since the project was first introduced 10 years ago. Congratulations on 10 years, by the way. Rich, talk to me a little bit about this co-development. You started with the PU, and then you've now gone over to the Squadron 42. So you've worked in both. You've worked in both environments. You know the struggle of T0 features and the quarterly releases for the PU, and now you're getting to your experience is different on Squadron. Talk to me about how that's changed and how it's still work for one still benefits the other, or will ultimately.
Well, when I worked on the PU, it wasn't really the PU or Squadron. It was always, we were working on features that pushed for both projects. So the focus when we were on the PU, or when we were more PU focused, was that we would make sure that we were getting features up and running, developed to the specifications that we needed them to work in a multiplayer environment, and then getting them out into the audience's hands, on quarterly releases. But the biggest issue, I think, if you've seen me doing talks on SC Live over the years, or even in some of our retrospectives, is that we'd get features, and the way that our, CIG is set up is we have feature teams and we have content teams. So what would happen is we'd develop a feature and then we'd push it to the live audience to get feedback around that feature. But there would almost be a lag with the importance of that feature and turning that from a singular thing into an experience, a gameplay experience that you'd go and enjoy and play as a part of a fun game. So we always had this lag where content teams were then trying to get on top and then use the feature, and we were trying to change the feature. So I think this kind of pulled it back a bit, allowed us to really focus on both the content and the feature at the same time, because it allowed us to bring it as under one umbrella, which is Squadron 42. So we were able to get that feature in the game, not as a T0, but as a fully whole, capable gameplay experience that, you know, myself, Chris, we can play and enjoy it and go, is this right? Do we need to make it better? How does it feel? And also prove that out with the content that we want. So once we've then developed that and honed it and, you know, almost cast it in that iron, in the crucible kind of thing, we can then move it into the PU, and ultimately, it's not that they're going to get features later, because they would have had them probably earlier, but just not ready. Or, you know, I can pick a few features right now where you think, well, there's not really a huge purpose for them. Mounted guns is a good example. It's not really a huge purpose for them in the PU right now, but we're making sure that any feature that we work on has that purpose. So when it does go into the PU, you know, into the game,
we get that.
We can use it and experience it how we wanted it.
We know that's happening. It's just it's taking its time.
We struggle a few times.
Which,
say, for example, actor status is a good example.
Well,
we have this vision of how it sits across this broad spectrum.
Things take
game,
time,
but we're having to piecemeal it in, and that never really gives you the true intentions of where we want to go. And I think this allows us to do that in Squadron, really hone it down, and then give it to the PU audience. And I think you know, fundamentally, it's better for the development of the features, and it's better for the gameplay experience that both players will experience in both products.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point. Is that you know, it's before we were developing the sort of features in isolation, and then they sort of went in to try to get used in Squadron and try to get used in the PU, but they weren't really developed iteratively with content. And so that's the reason why we sort of pulled back some of the stuff and are working on Squadron, is because then we can iterate it with actual gameplay content, which is what Rich is talking about, to make sure it feels well and right, with the time to bake it in without having to feel like, oh, okay, we've got a quarterly release out. And because, you know, there's a lot that goes on with the quarterly release in terms of it's not just that one feature. There's all these other things that go into it, and there's a whole process of publishing and splitting off the streams, and so there's a huge amount of effort and work every time you do one of these releases. It sort of eats into your development time in terms of doing the feature, and so pulling it out of that sort of loop and saying, okay, we're going to work with it in Squadron to really make it polished, so it's like not a T0 version. We've really got it down. It feels good. We like playing it. This is fun. This is challenging. It feels good. Is the benefit, I think, that's happening with us on Squadron. When we're seeing it on our side, I know it can be a bit frustrating for everyone on the other side, because we're sort of telling you, oh yeah, it's going to be much better than you've got right now. But we are very aware of a lot of, say, usability issues.
But we're waiting.
You know, user experience issues that we are addressing right now in Squadron, specifically for both Squadron and the PU.
Where's this massive surprise? It just looks Chris is here, or
today, but
is there something else?
Core gameplay in terms of, you know, we have some core areas, what we call the sort of the actor system, which would be the FPS, the you know, players moving around on foot, you know, interacting with things, the vehicle stuff, which, you know, like John Crew heads up, but the whole vehicle systems, and you know, you've already seen some presentations today on things that are very specific to vehicles, you know, like the sort of need for multiple speeds, and also the resource network, which is going to first roll out in vehicles, but it's going to be universal. You know, all those are sort of core gameplay systems that we have, and so what's happening now is that we're taking some of these systems and really just making them work well,
right,
for Squadron, and
yeah,
bam, they're going to come across into the PU. You know, another good example, which hasn't been talked today very much by on the you know, the vehicle side of the Need for Speed, but you probably saw, you know, in the different modes, there needs to be more stuff on the HUD, and you know, we've got a whole redesign that's happening on the HUD and the MFDs.
Map.
That's going to be very different than what you have now. First of all, it's using universal building blocks.
Change
you know, what some of
the damn star map.
More, minimalist.
It's one of the most annoying things
it's going to be,
when I'm playing the game, is the frickin' map.
Be able to cast pass some of the stuff to your advisor. Maybe
It
not.
is dog
And
shit.
We're building this system to work
Genuinely
well in all the ships
dog
in
shit.
Squadron,
And I can't wait till they rework that thing. I really can't.
As we're designing it, we're building it with both Squadron and the PU in mind. And so there's a lot of things, you know, people have talked about the star map forever.
Yes.
You know, so that has definitely been a major, I mean, there's right now, I think, 3 engineers, you know, a couple of visualists on it that we're really sort of working to make, you know, the new star map, which people haven't had. It's been in development yet. We're not quite ready to show you today, but that is going to be a much improved experience. But all of it, so navigation, traversal, you know, combat, the whole feel of it, all things that we're really focusing on here to bring across into the PU after, you know, we've got it working really well in Squadron. And so I think ultimately it's going to be good for the
Star map is hugely needed. New players are.
Over the next couple of years.
I'm fairly new still, but
yeah, we're pretty excited.
one of the first things you need to do is be able to.
I think there is two.
To go to places and travel, and the star map is one of the first things that you use, and it is so broken and difficult. It just makes it
everybody looks at individual features,
hard.
The microscope of that specific feature, but it's how they all interact together.
So it'd be great if
the game. So it's about
they come out with a new one soon as, if anything.
And number 2 is that none of these are like, oh, we're going to get to this in however time, and you know we're going to work on it. That all of the stuff that we'll talk about today is stuff that we're actively working on, and not in the inception, but you know we have in our hands. We can play it, we can see it, we're feedbacking on it. So it's something that you know we're fairly advanced along, and so you know hopefully we'll be able to pull back the curtain a little bit.
Yeah. That's some of the things that we're going to talk about, and I think we're about ready to start getting into it here. Some of the things will have aspects to show. Some of the things won't have aspects to show, like the star map, like Chris just said and whatnot. Some of the things will be presented in test maps because we don't want to give away any Squadron 42 specific locations and stuff like that. That said, I think we can maybe show some stuff in Asiato because people have
we already
seen
showed one location.
So yeah, you guys ready to listen to preamble?
Let's go.
Let's start with Rich. You were the AFT guy. Now you're the whole Squadron game guy. But let's start with something that affects everybody. This is a first-person universe, after all. Let's talk about the FPS radar and the player interaction system stuff. What can you tell us about how this has evolved?
That's interesting because we obviously, I think I've given a talk on FPS radar and scanning in the past, and I think the biggest thing that when we look at what Star Citizen is now, what's the first thing that you do? You know, you in your bed. How do you interact with the game? How do you interact with the environment that's around you? Doors, getting into your ship. How do you interact with kiosks?
Maps.
And a lot of the thing that we realized is that, you know, and it's not something new, it's just something we've always wanted to get to, is how does the player interface with the game? How do they translate their controls and what they want them to do, you know, ultimately in the universe that they're playing, and how does that then translate in the computer game so that it does what you expect it to do? And I think one of the biggest things was the player interaction experience, where we kind of use this terminology to understand, like, that's like interact mode, personal inner thought, you know, the player interaction system, all of these umbrella systems that kind of sit underneath.
Yeah, and for the most part it works, but then
shall we say. And I think that's one of the
some
things
parts
that we
it's
really
completely broken.
Because I think it's lacking right now. If you go and walk around the universe, you know, generally having to go into interact mode, having to use the cursor, having to select things, you know, and we've spent a lot of time trying to make the world physical and feel right and immersed, that you're immersed in it.
Well, you can interact with things, like the props are interactable.
Exactly.
You can do things, you can push things around, you can move them. I mean, the whole goal is to make it a sort of physically living universe.
Exactly.
That you can interact with to a level that in most FPS games you don't, right? Because most FPS games you run around, you shoot things, maybe you pick up a gun that gets dropped, but you generally, most everything's static. And so our goal definitely for the PU, it's one of the reasons why we're doing the persistent, you know, the whole idea of persistent streaming and later on the server meshing is to have this fully persistent universe that, yeah, you can push the chairs around, or that cup I could take off your desk and take it to my spaceship instead of your spaceship, Jared. and it will be there and it'll persist. So obviously interacting with things is a huge deal.
Cup stealing is one of the main things I'm looking forward to in the future of Star Citizen as a whole, I think.
in a level that
cup stealing is,
I haven't seen in a lot of FPS
and
games.
maybe
It's almost like a sort of story game and a puzzle game and a traversal
sort
game
of
and a
my
combat
future.
game and a stealth game and a flight game all rolled into one. And
Thank you, Chris.
So we need systems that are easy to use, and currently what we have
as a career path,
pretty clunky, so we've been really focusing on it because also
the stealing of cups is
keyboard, mouse. What if you joystick? What if you have
is a solid
gamepad?
must.
We need to make sure all that stuff works well. So we don't want to have 400 key presses you have to remember to do stuff, and we don't want it to take forever to interact and do stuff. And so
Jared get told to remove the cup because it's in the shot.
By the way, have been a bit large complaints on the PU, just getting in. New person getting into the game, like, how do I get out of bed? How do I do some basic stuff? How do I understand? Right now it's sort of trial by fire. I mean, I think there's a lot of people. It's almost like
there's no
whether it's a From Software thing where it's like, oh, I managed to beat the challenge of Star Citizen and I actually got to my ship.
There's no sort of tutorial, is there? So new players coming in, it's a lot to take in.
And by the way, these have been plans that have been around for quite a while.
Absolutely.
And Rich, back when he was in charge of sort of the core gameplay group, which was the AFT and the weapon teams and the actor tech team and stuff, that was on the list of things to do. It just, because of what we talked about, the release cadence in Star Citizen on the alpha, it just, didn't get to it yet. Well, we're getting to it now, and we're working on it. So
I mean, part of it is basically removing the barrier. So removing the clunkiness, as Chris said, to how to interact with with the environment. So what we've kind of gone to, we've gone to kind of this weighted system. So if you're walking over to a trolley, you shouldn't have to look exactly at the handle to be able to go, oh, I want to use the trolley. You just want to be able to go over there, and the game, you go, I want to interact with the trolley. You just press F, and the game should know, yeah, they want to interact with the trolley. So if I'm looking at your desk, for example, you've got quite a lot of things that I could pick up and take and do whatever I want. But you want to be able to just walk over there and not have to go into a mouse cursor mode to be able to then select it. And you should just be able to go, I want to look at the green ship. I'm going to pick up the green ship. I want to look at, your little mini.
So how you're going to get that across because it's
over there, or the book, or your coffee cup, or whatever. And you just want to be able to go and look at those things. Press F, and you need confidence that when you're looking at something and we have the user interface to tell you that yes, this is the thing that you're going to pick up, and you don't want to have to go into this separate mode to be able to do that. So I think that's one of the fundamental things on the player interaction experience, and that's such a pervasive system across the entirety, because it's the same when you're in a cockpit, or you're walking around, or you're in EVA, or you're crouched, or you're prone, or all the different environments that you're in. You need to be able to just effortlessly interact with the game world, and you want it to just feel natural and immersed, because you want to get involved in what you're doing in the gameplay, not have to fight the controls. And then on the other side of things, which is FPS radar and scanning, it's actually kind of being split into kind of a twofold. The first area is kind of what we're calling kind of like a quick scan. This is something that, again, if you think of the Star Citizen universe, it's very detailed. That's one of our strengths, that we're detail at scale. And so you want to be able to go in and understand all the individual pieces, that you can go in and go, I want to move that thing, or I want to go and get in a giant ship. But sometimes it's quite difficult to realize, okay, what is environment, or what is interactive, or which bits are relevant to me. For example, if you look at Uncharted, they have, painted areas to show you where you need to go and where you need to navigate. But that's not Star Citizen. Star Citizen's built on realism and the reality of the world. So what we want to do is have kind of like the radar and scanning system, where you can do this kind of like quick ping or quick scan wave, single button, and that is kind of just for your local environment, and everything will then be tagged as you look at it. So kind of think, I look at the camera, it'll come out and it'll have a little box, info box, and it'll say, okay, this is the model of the camera.
This looks tired.
And it's almost like you've done a little mini scan on the camera, but it's happening for everything around you. And you can just quickly look around and be like, oh, there's a cuttable surface there because I want to be able to use my multi-tool cutter. Oh, there's a vent there that I can get access to. Oh, there's a terminal there that I can hack. And I'm getting that information. It's almost like that Blade Runner-esque of like, I go into a space and I can go, okay, what are the ingredients that I have to play with as a player for me to be able to progress to the next area? And then we've got the other side of things, which is radar and scanning, which is what we're calling like a charged scan wave, where it's the same system, you're holding down the scan button, and that's pinging out across wider areas. And that's where you're looking at, individuals, you're getting, you know, you're getting, okay, there's 2 guys over there, what's their details? Oh, there's, you know, there's an NPC over there, okay, I can see an objective that I need to complete. And that's a bit more, because that's more gameplay pervasive, that's something that's going to be more of a risk reward. So that's like, okay, I'm giving my location away, but they're also, so they may or may not, you know that they've been scanned. If it's a player, they absolutely will be. And that's all underpinned off the signature system that we do for radar scanning of the ships, as at FPS. So it's all systemic. It's not, we have to go in and they go, oh, it's this custom setup. So we have this kind of usability aspect for radar and scanning for people to be able to go in and understand. You know, I think there's been plenty of Reddit posts over the years of people go, oh, I wish scanning, you know, radar and scanning would do this and show me little info boxes. And yeah, we have that up and running. So there's that aspect of it which kind of ties in with the player interaction experience of how you play the game and how do you understand what you need to do. And then there's the other side of things, which is then it's a more of a proactive tool of you looking through the environment and finding what you want.
We have a couple of videos. Should we show some videos of those?
Yeah. So I understand we have 2 videos. What's this first one we're going to look at?
So the first one is more kind of showing what I described with radar scanning, that first aspect. So you're going into a space, you're doing a quick scan wave, and then it's quickly showing you up the little bits that you can interact with.
All right, that's,
okay, let's hit that up.
FPS, radar, and Pi 1.
So you can see here, this is in Asiado, which we've already showcased. But this is obviously going in and utilizing some of our new building blocks UI for the doors. And then here's a scan wave, and you can see that I'm looking at that data pad, and then you can move around, and it's giving me that information. So right now, it's just giving you the basic high-level information in terms of the names and things. But you will also have more detailed information depending on, you know, contextually what the item is. And what you're seeing here is part of the player interaction system. So you can just, even though that's kind of a complex area, there's lots of little things that you can interact with, but you're getting confidence of, oh cool, I can grab that, or I can use the data pad. And you're not having to go into interact mode, you're not having to be driven by the cursor. You can go in and just press F or interact with it. And you know, you've probably seen this in plenty of AAA games, but they don't have the detail and at scale that we do. So we wanted to make sure that that system is really robust. But hopefully it gives you kind of an idea of.
Well, that makes sense.
I'd also say that, like, part of the idea is that you know, there's the.
It simplifies it, which I think it does need. It does need to be simplified somewhat.
When it says grab, or you know, I think there's a few other ones that you can use in default action. But the icon, if you just had a single disk.
The inventory screen needs sorting as well.
Wasn't broken, then that would mean there's only one thing you can do with it. In a lot of those cases, you could see there was a broken disk in 4 pieces, which was basically saying that's a multi-action. So as you look at it, if, for instance, in that case, if you hit F, it does the default action. If you held F, it would bring up the modular wheel that would show you the other actions. So you could maybe equip it versus grab it, or whatever you would do. And so the idea is just like you can
simplify it,
like
be much better.
Rich was talking about a lot of other sort of AAA, even console games. You walk around, you look around. Oh, look, I can extra do something with it, right? So there's a bit of that's happening here. So you can just look around, and I can interact without having to hold F, move your mouse around, and all the rest of stuff. I mean, we'll still have the overall interact mode that you can go into if you want, but the idea is I just play around. If I'm used to playing games a certain way, so there is a certain language of, I think, FPS or even third-person games that exist right now, and we don't want to like do something totally different to it because you know, people are used to playing games a certain way. It's like why in an FPS game you run around with WASD and use the mouse, because so many people are used to it. And so we're leaning a little bit onto that, but trying to make it much more usable and work with inside a much more powerful system than you typically get in games. And so even there, you saw there's a lot of interactables. You look at them, you can move them around, do all these different things with it, and hopefully it'll be much more intuitive for players in Squadron or Star Citizen.
And that default item actions is a good point, because that's also something we've gone to and we're changing in the fact that we want everything to have a default action that essentially you go over, you press F, it always does that default action. But let's say you're harvesting harvestables and you want, you know, the default action is that it picks it up and puts it into your hand, but you want it to always be to store into your backpack. You'll actually be able to go in there, you know, right click on the item, you know, when you're in interact mode, bring up the wheel, or like Chris says, hold F and just it will bring up the wheel. And that will replace that list that we have currently right now. And you'll actually be able to remap that in the game, like 3 clicks, and you go, I don't want it to be pick up into my hand. I want it to go straight into my backpack because that's what you're doing right there. So then you can go and have it, it allows us to give the interaction system how we want it to be by default, but then it puts the onus on the player. If they want it to go, they want a weapon to always go to their backpack because they're happy with the weapons they've already got and they're going looting, they just want it all to be stored, they can do that out of the gate so it doesn't always go into their hands. And they have that customizability to be able to interact with the environment and the objects that they're looking at.
Before we move on, we have a second video.
Yeah.
Yes.
I haven't seen this one. You want to set it up or you want to just go into playing it?
Sure. Play it. So I mean, the second one, essentially what we're about to see is kind of what I talked about. This is the second half of radon scanning. So this is where they're still getting the environmental information, like whether you've got a vent or a terminal or a hacking area. But you're also now getting information about the enemies and the AI and what's out there. So it's a wider and broader.
Yeah, I mean, this is where you basically, it's almost like whether it's X-ray vision or you can hear it through the wall, but you could track someone on the other side of a wall, but you're doing the charge scan, which is much more risky because it's noisy. And if people go, oh, someone's scanning, maybe there's someone over there and they can track you down. But it'd be useful.
So it's a wall hack, but a dangerous wall hack.
It's like you're going to go around a corner, you don't know if there's some enemies around the corner, and you want to find out. You use this.
It's very useful.
Yeah,
having played lots of levels.
Definitely, because in Squadron, we're trying to have a certain amount of realism. So you're not just going to go and gun down 400 people. So we want you, when you're in situations, you're outnumbered and you have to. It's more of a stealth game in the FPS than it is a straight out run and gun shooter.
Bring it to the point of realism, then bring it back to the point of fun, as you said.
Well, there's a lot of fun stealth games.
All right, so I want to see this clip. I haven't seen it yet. Let's roll FPS 2.
Come on then.
So what
is it interesting or not?
He's going to do a scan wave in a moment. Essentially what you'll see is that it's now penetrating through the walls, and now you can start to see the slavers that are in this environment. Now these slavers don't necessarily have a radon scanner, so they're not able to pick you up. So what will happen is when you do a scan wave or a charge scan wave, your signatures will basically skyrocket. So that's what will give you away to other people. So in the PvP environment, you're only getting, it's a big risk. If you want to do it, but you're giving away your location. So if you're willing to do that, then so be it. But in a more of a PvE environment, what we're going to do is we're going to have tailored. Some enemies will have radon scanning and some won't. So if they do, then they'll be like, hey, I've just been pinged, and they'll get your location and then they'll go and investigate. So what you're seeing here, on that video is kind of
I don't think I like it. Wall hacks.
Through the walls, whereas the first one is kind of a more limited scope, and you can, it's up to the player to choose which one they want to do. The first one is really more about just, we want to encourage the player to go into an environment and go, okay, cool, I'm in this room. What things do I have to interact with? And then the second one is more of a wide escape, like said. When we're playing our stealth level.
Not a fan of wall hacks in any game,
kind of a good understanding
especially not this.
And it's only temporary, and you will have a cooldown on that charge scan wave. So you're not just going to be able to spam it there forever. It's like you get a temporary picture, and you go, cool, I've got a good snapshot. Now I'm gonna, make my move and go forward.
So while we're still here on the first-person experience, the player experience, let's stick to a couple more topics that are related just to the player before we move into ships and bigger stuff. Ledges and ladders. Everybody knows the struggles of elevators in the persistent universe, but that's not the only way to, traverse the universe to get around and stuff.
Teleportation.
I understand that you guys have made a number of improvements to mantling over ledges and how to use ladders.
I mean, ledges and ladders is kind of...
Right, I'm going to end the stream, guys. I've got to sort my kids out. I will be back with a video that overviews all of the good stuff, not the stuff that we've just watched, of CitizenCon, and I'll piece it all together, and I'll come out with it as soon as I can.